So Jackie, just for those who are watching the recording later on, Jackie and Ivy just introduced themselves. I'll introduce myself. I'm Rabbi Ross, and I know Barry because when I first started coming down to Florida and getting closer with my Florida cousins, Barry was really excited because I was Orthodox and he was Orthodox, and he was like, we were the only ones in the family. And he said, hey, I know a good shul for you. I know how to take care of you. I know what you need. And we connected, and he always looked after me, and we stayed friends.
Can I talk?
Yeah.
I met Barry at Aunt Faye's memorial service. That was it was Barry's mother's best friend. And there was a knock on our door, and two handsome young men knocked on the door and said they were Barry and Gary Fask. And they came in to the memorial service, and that's how I met Barry and Gary. And that's how Jackie met them too.
Yeah, that's all true. All right, I'm Jackie's Aunt Fran, and I adopted Barry as my nephew and considered him my nephew. He was very dear to me, as is Jackie, and my family, my Shallow family.
And can I say one more thing? When my mother met Gary and Barry, she says, oh my goodness, he comes from such a nice family. She was so excited.
I'm Renee Bridges, and I met Barry and Gary when I think the twins were like 5 or 6 years old. Herbie can tell more. And they came into town. Herbie, I don't remember why, but I remember going to a Crystal. And it was like midnight, and we all went to a Crystal and had hamburgers. Don't tell anybody I said that. They were kosher back then. And I don't remember if they stayed with us or not, but since then, he came back to Savannah, and he stayed with us. Was it last year or the year before? And he brought his 2 dogs, and he stayed with us at Tybee. And I remember him leaving us a book that he wanted us to read, which I haven't read yet, but on my list. So we go back a long ways. Herbie is the one that could really tell you, because he's a lot older than me.
So should I give myself an introduction? Herb Goodman. I'm in San Francisco on the West Coast. Our families go back years and years and years, when Philip Siegel and his wife Sadie were still living, and our families used to come either to Savannah or to Miami to occasions that each had. And that's how our families go back. The only time that I've been to Miami myself is the times that I've met Barry and Jackie, and of course Ivy, and so they were always fun times, and we have pictures to look back on. So that's our introduction. So that's our introduction.
Anyone else want to say?
Sure. I'll introduce myself. I'm Richard Shello.
Hold on one second, Richard. Is there someone who has 2 devices open in the same location? There we go. I think that worked.
Yeah, that did work. Hi, I'm Richard Shello. I'm Jackie's brother. Barry was my brother-in-law. I also met Barry at Faye Shiva with my mother and my sister. And although my relationship was significantly different with him than my sister's was, although we met on the same day. And this is Annette too.
Hi, how are you?
And that was Barry's sister-in-law.
Yeah, hi. My name is Steve Reinhardt, and I knew Barry since the 1st grade. We went back a long way, and he was a prime mover in keeping us in contact. I live in New York City, and my parents, I grew up in Florida, obviously, and we would keep in touch, and he was the prime mover in keeping us in touch with each other, and we had a great relationship, and he's a great guy, and we miss him dearly.
Thanks for being here, Steve.
Thanks, Steve. We're glad you're here with us.
Thanks for having me, inviting me.
Yes.
Is there anyone else who wants to say anything before we get started? To introduce themselves?
I see one more cousin. It said Rebecca and Mark Pendergraft. They're also cousins. They were in Jacksonville. It's the same side of the family as the Goodmans and the Bridges.
Mm. So the reason I suggested that we study Torah in honor of Barry on this date, which I know is an auspicious date in your family, the 9th, number 9, is because it's called the Shloshim. It's the 30th day since the funeral, and it marks a point of recognition in the mourning process, right? It's the first stop along the way after Shiva. And I think what it represents is a kind of acceptance, not at all healing, but an understanding. And so with that understanding, we're even better able to honor him and to bring up different things that he taught us in a way that is empowering rather than just saddening. So one of the things that Barry really loved was the study of Torah. And the study of Torah is when people, typically it's at least 2 people. You could study Torah alone, but traditionally it's done with at least a chavruta, which is 2, but sometimes more, discussing and using their heart and their mind to look at a text of moral or legal import, philosophical import, spiritual import, and just using your heart to interpret it, and also using it almost like a diving board to go off on your own path. And Barry loved that. Barry loved talking about life. He liked a conversation that was meaty, right? That was actually about something rather than just small talk. And he was very community inclined. He felt a responsibility for the world around him. And so I thought today we would learn some texts about communal responsibility. As we go through the text, I'm going to share my screen with the texts I prepared. I'll explain a little bit, but I would really love it if somebody would volunteer to read in English the text. And then as we discuss it, everyone feel free to chip in if you have a question, if you have a comment. And one of the things of Torah is you don't have to accept it. Like sometimes you learn more from a text that you disagree with than from a text that you agree with. So, whatever comes into your heart, that's valid as long as it's coming from your heart, So hopefully we will all participate if it's something that you're interested in. Do not hesitate at all to speak up or to say, hey, hold on, I have a thought that this leads me to. So I'm going to share my screen now. Can you see my screen that says communal responsibility?
Yes.
Okay, great. Great. So,
Yes.
do I have a volunteer to read this first source? It comes from the Talmud on the 31st page on the front side of the Talmud called Shabbat. Jackie, did you say you wanted to read?
No, but okay. There was another incident involving one Gentile who came before
Shammai.
Shemami, I don't know.
Shammai.
Shami, and said to Shami, convert me on condition that you teach me the entire Torah while I am standing on one foot. Shammai pushed him away with the builder's cubit in his hand. It was a common measuring stick that Shammai was a builder by trade. The same Gentile came before Hillel. He converted him and said to him, that which is hateful to you, do not do to another. That is the entire Torah, and the rest is interpretation. Go study.
Okay. This is a famous text about the philosophy of Shammai, but really more about Hillel. Hillel is one of the most famous rabbis of the Talmud, and he's particularly famous because of his sense of communal awareness and kindness. So this, chutzpahdik guy comes, these are the two biggest rabbis of the generation. So this guy, this nudnik shows up at the door and says, convert me, while I'm standing on one foot, meaning, can do it right now. And literally it says Shammai hit him with his yardstick, like whacked him and said, look, get out of here. But the same guy comes in front of Hillel, and Hillel says, all right, I'll teach you something that really embodies everything that the Torah is about. And that is the inverse of the golden rule, which is if there's something that you wouldn't like done to yourself, don't do it to another person. That's the entire Torah. The rest is interpretation. Go and study. I think it's an important source because it really is the basis for all of morality. Would you guys agree?
It makes it simple.
It simplifies everything. You wanna know right and wrong? Ask yourself if this is how you would want it done for you. I believe that that's what Barry did. I think he asked himself this question pretty often. Because is this right? Again, another way of phrasing it, is this right? Anybody have any comments on it?
It makes, I was just thinking, it kind of made me think about Barry used to reminisce with me. Our uncle Judge, Sidney Siegel, he used to say, when in doubt, don't. So like you say, is it right? He used to say, yeah, when in doubt, don't. And that's a good way to think. It's different, but it's sort of a little offshoot of this.
Yeah, right. Here's another saying from the same rabbi, from Hillel. Does anybody want to read the second source?
I'll read it. He also used to say, if I am not for myself, who is for me? But if I am for my own self only, what am I? And if not now, when?
Okay. So it on first glance, it sounds like something you might see in a fortune cookie, but it is also an incredibly essential teaching because it teaches the balance of a person who understands their own value, but at the same time is not self-centered. You have to care about yourself. If I'm not for myself, then who's gonna be for me? You have to fight for your own position. You have to have a belief and stand up for it. But if you're only for yourself, if you're so entrenched in what you believe and in your own path, then ma'ani, meaning what am I really? I'm just completely self-facing, self-centered. And so a person needs to strike a balance between looking out for themselves and looking out for others. And then the last part of it, v'im lo achshav ematai, and if not now, when, is, I mean, I think it's the key to all action, which is you just got to get out the door and hit the ground running. You got to go do something. You could talk till you're blue in the face, but unless you go and do something about it, nothing's going to happen. If not, now is the time. Anybody have any comments on this teaching? Do you guys find it to be?
I'll speak to it.
Yeah.
I had to turn the camera off just because I was running out of juice. But I think that's an interesting reading because you talk about the balance between looking out for yourself and looking out for others. And I know with my kids, I always told them to stand up for others and those who couldn't stand up for themselves, but they also had to be aware that sometimes personal safety is the most important thing, that sometimes you can stick up for others, but other times you have to look out for yourself. And I think that in context, you know, that some people go through their life being of service to others, and to some extent give up their own advancement to some extent. You know, I mean, there's jobs out there where, you know, look at soldiers and policemen and you know, to some extent rabbis, where you give up wealth. You know, you're about being of service to others. I think that there's other rewards for that. I think teachers fall into that category for the most part. And I think it's a great passage when it comes to Barry, because I think for me, Barry was somebody who cared for others and cared about others and lived it, and sometimes to the detriment of himself, that he would do things for others when he probably should have been more selfish. Not trying to judge, just he had that quality in him. So those are just some of my thoughts on that particular passage, but I thought that passage was very good and very true, because
I agree.
It really is a combination of, you know, do I look out for others or do I look out for myself? And in some cases, people will sacrifice their life for others, and literally and figuratively.
Yeah. For the next source, I want to skip down a few lines to where it says Hillel said, because again, I want to stick with these teachings of Hillel, because I think there's something about Hillel that is specifically apropos to today. Like his philosophy really speaks to a lot of our experience and communal responsibility. And again, I think when I think of Barry, I think of those teachings. So there's a famous teaching of Hillel: do not separate yourself from the community. What do you think that means? Don't separate yourself from the community. To me, not separating yourself from the community means that you don't really stand alone. Like, and I think it's such an important teaching today, because we're in an age of incredible individualism, and dying of communities. People are kind of looking out after themselves or even their family, but the idea that we don't live in a bubble, like you're part of a community, and if you separate from that community, you're not doing your part to keep the healthy community going. So whether it's a synagogue community or a church community, or even just the municipality that you live in, and this one specifically reminds me a lot of Barry, that he certainly didn't separate himself from his community. He was very much, he felt like his community was where he needed to put his effort.
That's true.
Do not trust in yourself until the day of your death. Meaning, don't get an attitude of like, I'm great, I'm good enough. I don't think it's saying like to distrust yourself, but it means never stop trying, never stop growing. Right? A lot of times people get to an age and they say, I've done everything I can do, and this is who I am, and there's no changing me. But I think we're supposed to be improving ourselves, and or possibly the opposite. You could always go the wrong direction. So, you got to keep on working on yourself. You always got to be working on yourself. And again, that's something that Barry did. It also, it puts death in a sort of important context, which is that, at least according to Jewish philosophy, we're not here just to have a good time, and we're not here just to experience. Those are important things, but we're really here on a mission. Like we have a mission in this world. We're put in this world. We're souls put into bodies on a mission, and that mission lasts until the day we die. And in that sense, it's kind of it's beneficial to the soul when this life is over, because you're no longer having to be tested day in and day out with all kinds of annoyances and problems. Right? In heaven, there's no problems. So you kind of like on this mission of life, and don't stop fighting. Don't stop pushing yourself until your last day. And to me, that again, all these teachings remind me of Barry. Do not judge your fellow man until you've reached his place. That's pretty self-explanatory, right? Try not to judge others. You don't know what they're going through. I think this one applies a lot. I think there's a lot of angry people. I don't know if it's just Baltimore, but there's a lot of angry people, and
Mine too. It's everywhere.
And sometimes I just try to take a deep breath and say, I don't know what they're going through. They must be going through something really tough. So I'm gonna try not to judge them. I'm gonna, do my best, but avoid placing judgment on others.
Well, that really signifies Barry, because he really never judged others.
Very true.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's sort of saying don't ever judge others, because you can't, there's no way that you're going to reach this. There's no way to reach the place of another person. You can't be them. You can't be in their mind. So try your best not to be judgmental. Like, figure out what's right and wrong for yourself and advocate for it. But, don't spend your time putting down others.
It's hard to do sometimes, but he was really good at it.
He was. Be more like Barry. That's what they said in a service, be more like Barry.
Do not say something that cannot be understood, thinking that in the end, it's going to be understood, right? Don't assume that people will know what you mean. This is a big one. A lot of times we assume that everyone will understand our intentions and understand what exactly we're thinking. And then we get upset when they don't do it. Because we didn't explain it well. We didn't explain our intentions. Maybe we told them to do something, but we didn't give them the full picture. So you really have to take some time when you're speaking to others about something important to help them understand why you're saying it, not just what you're saying, but why you're saying it. Understanding your intention is a really important part of communication. And don't say, when I have time, I'll study, because maybe you'll never have time. And that's, again, a beautiful one for Barry, who made time to study Torah. This is specifically talking about Torah study. There's a lot of people who work, and they're so busy with work that they just say, listen, I don't really have any time to study. I work, I come home, I get a little exercise, but this also applies to exercise. Don't say, I'll exercise when I have time, because you'll never have time if that's your excuse. And don't say, I'll spend time with my family when I have time, because life will pass you by. So make sure to set aside time for the things that are important. And if work has to take the back burner and you don't do it, 100%, at least you'll have done the things that are important to you. You may never have all the time you want. I mean, I wish I had 10 more hours every day, but it's not happening. So you got to prioritize and make sure that you devote time to the things that are important, and not just to the things that you feel that feel very important, even though ultimately they're just part of our routine. I want to skip down to the bottom of that last teaching, because this is I think is a beautiful one. In a place where there are no men, and it doesn't mean really men, it means leaders. In a place where nobody's going to step up, strive to be a man. If you see an empty place in leadership, stand up and take your place, and be that person, fill that void. And God, I mean, that is so Barry, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so those are just teachings of the rabbi called Hillel that I thought were very apropos for Barry. I'm gonna fly through a couple other sources that I think are important, because I don't want to keep us too late studying, but I do want to go through some more beautiful sources that I think will honor Barry. This one's from the Torah itself, from the 5th book of the Torah, Deuteronomy. The other ones were rabbinic sources, like from the rabbis of 2,000 years ago. This is a very important teaching. It's called Hashavas Aveda. It's a mitzvah of returning lost objects. If you see someone's ox or sheep, don't ignore it. It says don't hide yourself from it, but rather you should take it upon yourself to find the owner. And you should do the same with the person's donkey, his garment, anything you find, you must not hide yourself. It says indifferent, but the word is lihitalem. Don't hide yourself from something that comes across your path. And that happens to us as as you're living your life, you say, wow, this obviously it applies to lost objects and returning lost objects, but it applies in a greater sense as well, which is if you see something that needs to be done, Don't say, oh, I'm going to leave it for the next person to do it. Right? Because that's just not how, that's not how a good society functions. In a good society, people are just looking to be good Samaritans. They see something wrong, you see somebody on the side of the road and they look like they're having problems, you know, don't just leave it for the next person to call the police, but, you know, give a call 911 and say, hey, there's someone stranded on the side of the road that looks like they could use help. Here's where they are. Or if you see an accident or whatever it is, if you see something, say something. And if you see something, do something. It's the same with an ox. If you see your fellow's ox struggling on the way, don't hide yourself from them. You should help them. So, you know, I don't know, today, you know, people might be nervous to stop and help somebody change their tire, and I understand that. But again, we have cell phones. We could call the police and say, hey, it looks like there's somebody who's having trouble on the side of the road. Could you go help them? This teaching, again, from the Talmud, I thought was really interesting. It basically, there's a teaching that a person shouldn't throw stones from their property into the street. Well, that sounds reasonable, right? I think Barry would have been ticked off if he saw somebody throwing stones from their property into the public thoroughfare. So it happened once that there was a person who was doing this. He was throwing stones, like he basically was dumping. He was littering in the public thoroughfare because he didn't want them in his property. He figured if I throw them into the street, somebody will deal with it, not me. Well, a rabbi, it calls him a chassid, like some rabbi or some righteous person sees this guy doing this and says, calls him an idiot, Reka. He says, you low life. or he says, why are you throwing these stones from a place that is not yours to a place that is yours? That confused me when I first read this. We hear what he says. He says, why are you throwing stones from a place that's not yours to a place that is yours? So the guy laughs at him and says, what are you even talking about? You're making no sense. Well, days passed and the guy ended up having to sell his field, right? He lost his money, whatever it was, he sells his field and he was going in the street and he tripped over the stones that he put there. And he says, wow, it's so true what that person told me, right? Why are you throwing stones from a place that you don't really own to a place that is yours? Meaning, what place is really ours more than any other place? We would think that it's our personal property, but personal property, it comes and it goes. You could lose your house, God forbid, but the park, the ocean, right? The places that are public, that's truly your place. And if you trash it, you're trashing the only place that's truly yours.
Very good.
It's such a cool teaching. Such a cool teaching. And again, like that's Barry, right?
Very, yeah.
Exactly.
This one you've probably heard. I mean, it's probably it's a story. It's a parable, like it's a fake story. But I feel like everybody's heard this one. But it comes out of the Vayikra Rabbah, which is the Medrash. It's again like about 2,000 years old. So there were men on a ship, and one of them takes out a drill and starts drilling a hole in the ship underneath him. And the others are like, "Stop! What are you doing?" And he says, "What do you care? Like, it's under my seat. I'm drilling under my seat. Leave me alone." And obviously they said that's not how it works on a ship. And we're all on a ship, aren't we? We're on the mothership. And you know, you can't think that if another person's drilling a hole beneath you, beneath him, that it's not going to affect you either. So we're all together in this. You have to protect the ship that we're on. I'm going to skip down a little bit and really just talk about the key line of this source here in Shavuot 39a, which is the Talmud. And it's in general, it's talking about the idea that do we get punished for the bad people amongst us? Like, for instance, something that really bothers me in Baltimore is there's a lot of crime and violence in the city. And I feel like it's partially my responsibility. Like, I'm living here. I can't be okay with that level of violence taking place in my city. So am I responsible? And the Talmud kind of says yes. Like, you share responsibility for the things that the people around you do. And then it gives a caveat, like, that's only if you don't protest. Meaning, if you protest, if you get up and do something about it and say something, then your responsibility is off you. You've done what you could do. But if you just stay silent while there's bad things going on around you, you're part of the problem. I mean, that's like goes back to Nazi Germany, where people just didn't say anything, and they could kill 6 million Jews because nobody wanted to say anything.
I think that's going on right now in this country. That very public figures do very wrong things, and normally good people don't say anything or act like that unacceptable behavior is acceptable because the alternative, I think, is worse. And those are real problems that we have in our society today.
Yeah,
I think it's been playing out over the last couple of years. And
Yeah.
it actually leads me to something that is that was an interaction between Barry and I. And Barry was very liberal politically, and some I agreed with, some I didn't agree with, and he would talk about his politics regularly. And one time I told him, I said, I wish you wouldn't do that. I get anxious when this starts. And not then, but another time he made it a point to tell me that I don't want to say that he didn't care if I didn't agree with him, that he was very much okay with differing opinions politically, that it was okay not to believe as he believed, but he was okay saying what he believed. And you see the polarization in our society between the right and the left, the Dems and the Rebs, the haves and the have-nots. And I don't think that's much different than what you were talking about. The Nazis, the Germans and the Nazis who turned their head and acted like it doesn't affect me, so I'm not going to say anything. And that we have a civic responsibility to some extent. And it relates back to what we talked about before, which is that, do I save myself or do I save you? Can I do both? Or am I going to have to sacrifice one for the other? And that's a choice that we all need to make.
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, you got to put yourself and your family first, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a responsibility to others. And in fact, the key line of the source that I was just talking about is Shekol Yisrael Arevim, that there's an idea that we're all responsible for one another. And one of the great rabbis of the last generation, put it this way, that the whole purpose of the prophets was to remind us of the moral state of a people, that not many people are guilty, but everyone's responsible. We're all responsible for one another. So that's like, as you walk down the street in a society, it's an incredible thought to just look around at all these strangers and believe I have some responsibility to you, right? I owe you something. Maybe it is decency. Maybe it is, trying to help you if I see you need help, but just being part of a society, living within a group of people, that means you have responsibility. And like civic responsibility is a core value of Judaism. So I think we've gone long enough, and I don't want to, there's a real fine line between studying Torah and getting really boring. So I want to go back to just everybody together, and I want to hear if anybody has any comments or thoughts that haven't been shared yet.
Well, I really enjoyed that, Ross. I really found it enlightening and a lot of things that I think were really Barry, and I want to thank you really a lot for doing this. And I think it's really the one good thing that comes from it is, to kind of get the family together for this. So I would hope that maybe we could do it again. So, I would like to thank you very much for doing this and honoring Barry.
Of course.
Thank you, Rabbi Ross. It's lovely.
Thanks.
And I think before we hang up, at the beginning, I know we introduced some of the families, everyone knew who everyone was, but since then, some other family has come on. Well, first, also, my husband's Jack Mayer. So they're there. Karen Rubenstein is another one of our cousins. That's on the other side of the family. That's on our mother's mom's side of the family. And then here's cousin Robert over here, who is a cousin to both the Shello and the Fask families. One on his mom's side and one on his dad's side. So here's our mutual cousin.
Wow.
And I think everybody else has been introduced, I think.
No, I'm Rebecca. Rebecca's here.
Oh,
Hi, Rebecca.
Hey.
I see you.
Yeah, we see you.
I'm new at Zoom. I can't, it took me a little while took me about 45 minutes I started early, but
Yes, I'm sorry. This is Rebecca Pendergraft, formerly Rebecca Halpern. She's also the same side of the family as the Goodmans and Bridges. And an old family friend, Faina Shooter. Did we miss anybody?
I only have 4 pictures on my Zoom. I don't know. I can see me, Rabbi Ross, you, and now I see Rebecca. And before I saw Jackie, but I can't see anybody else.
Yeah, I was having issues. I had to change from my iPad to my phone, and I don't know. I can't see anybody either, but I can hear.
Also, we have someone named Irene. We have Jack Mayer. We have cousin Stephen Garner, Arel Shapiro, who's my mom, and Faina.
Hi, Arel.
I don't see any of those.
Yeah, their cameras are not on, but they're on the call.
Oh, okay.
Lauren Garner's there too.
And Lauren and cousin Lauren, there she is.
Also known as Stephen Garner's sister.
Yeah.
Is that a middle finger, Lauren?
That is my actual legal name, Steve Garner's sister.
I see Lauren now.
Herb, I haven't seen Rebecca in 100 years. So hi,
hello.
Rebecca.
Oh, hello.
I just wanted to, I'm sorry. I just wanted to share something because some of you I've shared it with, but the rest I haven't. When towards the last months, I said to Barry, what can I pray for you in one of our conversations? And his response was just so beautiful and so Barry. He said to me, pray that everybody on this earth finds something in the world that could be made better, and that they spend their life making that their passion and doing something to bring about change. And I just, that to me is just the essence of Barry.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Beautiful.
And I share that with so many people. I'm a therapist in my work. I'll say it because most people, people are suffering when they are, when we, I love what I do. And when we love what we do, then we have meaning in life. And when we have something passionate to focus on. And I thank you, Barry, because that's just the essence of, of what creates peace, I think, in life. So just wanted to share that because I think tonight is about that. And it was, that's the essence of Barry.
That's very true. If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life.
And even, people that are working in a job, I'll say to them, if they are having trouble transitioning or they can't right away, it's find something, spend a few hours a week. What would you like? What would you really love to be doing? And where do you want to be helping? And how can you, use your passion? So Barry was very blessed in that he could do that in his life. And he did that with so many. And I also appreciated, the comments about balance, because like tonight I was working with a family and it was so perfect to what we were talking about, where they were talking about, I was doing a couple session and they were talking about how they were so busy volunteering, like the husband was volunteering with other people that he didn't have time to be taking his own child to, an event. And so, again, it's that balance of giving. I learned that. I had to learn balance in my life because I love to give. And, but first we have to make sure that we are, not sacrificing ourselves and taking care of our own needs. So thank you.
I think that's a really good point. And I think that was, for sure. I think my dad had a little of that and Barry had a little of that, where they were so giving that sometimes they didn't do enough for themselves or their family because they were so giving. And I think that was a really good thing that Rabbi Ross brought up. It's a great quality, but sometimes the balance is hard and you or your family suffers because of them being so giving.
Yeah. And what I'm seeing as a mental health professional, I'm calling around to find psychiatrists or different people for people, because so many are retiring. They're not taking any more patients because, and I'm sure the same thing is happening in the medical profession and other places. People are, burning themselves out and not taking care and not balancing, because there's so much need out there. So it's interesting to be seeing that. So it's a reminder to me because, I know it's been nonstop since the pandemic. And, and I love helping people, and it's a reminder about self-care.
My father was like that. My father was like that. He gave to everybody. He started the blood drive at our temple. He was very active in the brotherhood, and he had a way about him, a very kind way about him but he made people want to give of themselves. And he was successful at it. He would take dead plants and just bring them back to life. And our animals loved him. And he didn't mind if they disobeyed my orders, not to jump on him or anything. He was like that. And he said, okay, my mother and father died about the same time. She from dementia and him from heart failure. And he said to the rabbi, I'm not going to die until she dies. And he didn't. He waited till she died, and then he died right after she did. And but it was very peaceful. And he was just determined that way. but he was such a nice, giving person. He could talk about politics to anybody, no matter what their politics were. He could talk about religion, no matter what their religion was. He gave discounts to people at the store that didn't need discounts. He just gave until he didn't have anything left to give. And he was just like that. He was a very peaceful, giving, nice man. So in a way, I don't know, he was sort of like Barry, a little.
We loved Cousin Marvin.
At the funeral, people said, do what Marvin does. And so now we're saying, do what Barry does. So it's passed down. Now it's do what Barry does. Try to do what Barry does. Try to think like Barry.
We all love Cousin Marvin too, Rebecca. We all did. And we really appreciate Rabbi Ross, and the reminder, as it always is, that our teachings from the Torah, the teachings from the rabbis, they're from so many years ago, but they speak to us today and speak to the problems that we all have in this world today and the issues we have to deal with today. And there's always something to learn and helps us to find the right path. And I know Barry felt that, and that's why he enjoyed studying Torah so much. And I think by doing that, it helped him find his path so well.
Yes, and thank you, Rabbi, because this little session has sort of made me want to study Torah more.
Good to hear. It's good to hear.
Thank you, Rabbi Ross, very much. Thank you
Mr.
for
Duncan.
tonight. Thank you for honoring everybody.
And
Nice
thank
to
you
see
everyone
you
for
all.
being here with us tonight. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Sending my
Beautiful way to
appreciations.
honor Barry.
Thank you, everybody. I hope we can do it again. And thank you
Yeah,
all
well-
for being here.
Thank you. Barry would be proud.
Yeah.
For sure.
Bye, guys.
This
Thank
is,
you.
bye, everybody.
Night.
Thank you all.
Family.
Good night, everybody.
Hi,
Night.
cousin
Night.
Robert.
Good
Hey,
night.
Robert.
Good night.
Hi,
everybody.
Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Good
Hey,
night.
Robert.
It is
Richard,
cousin
Good
Robert.
night.
Jackie,
Good
and
night.
Tony, and Ivy, and Karen. And then
Hey, Dodie, do you have it on? Do you know how to put it on? Do you see like little square that has little dots on it, and it says, what does it say? A gallery.
Don't
No,
have that either.
I don't have that either.
Oh, because that would allow you to see everybody.
I
You
don't.
can kind of
I
you
don't
can
know how
try
to
to
do that.
scroll, but I don't know. I
gallery
can't.
is in
This is
the
the
upper
first time
right
I
corner.
saw.
There's a view. Click on that and click gallery. Upper
What is
right corner.
I don't have that, but
You're on the
first time I
computer. Are you
saw
on the
Robert.
computer? On the computer?
No, I'm on my phone.
iPhone.
Oh, okay, on the phone, yeah, you're right. On the phone, you have to kind of scroll.
On the
To
phone,
the-
it's hard to see more than a couple.
Right, you can only see 4 at a time,
Well,
right,
I'm on a
You have
computer.
to, you can swipe to
right,
see others.
right. On the computer, you get the whole, there were 16 of us on, so you get the whole 16.
Yeah, well,
And I
Hi,
think this is
Jody.
Rebecca's first Zoom ever. Is this your
it's my
first Zoom?
first Zoom. It's my first Zoom.
And
The
my
other
mom.
Zoom-
It's my
the
mom's
other-
first Zoom too.
There you go.
Wow, wow.
Counting.
Wow.
Never
Well, have-
before.
We'll have to Zoom, I'll tell you about a project that we've been working on. Bob was working with me on it. We're putting together some family photos and we're putting them on a slideshow so that we can put them up on, on the Zoom and just like this. And you see them really well, right, Bob?
Yeah.
We're trying to figure out who is who. There's some of them that are very old. Ivy, when the time is right, I know you're really good at knowing who, some of the
Finding who
history.
everybody is. Herb knows that. I send
I
him
still
pictures.
think one of the coolest things is that we have cousin Robert is on both sides. I think that's the coolest
know,
thing,
right?
That's the coolest thing.
Well,
right?
can you hear me?
How
Yes.
did you manage that?
Last night, we saw a picture, Jody, that why my cousin Karen would have it, but I swear it looks like your mom and dad holding you and Grandma Weingarten and Aunt Dora.
I sure don't remember, but I was
Oh,
probably.
yeah, you were real little. We'll have to get you a copy of that picture to look
Or
at.
you know what, or
It looks
now that
like
you
a
know
picture
how to,
of your
now
dad.
you know how to Zoom, we can do this again, and I can bring up, you know, I can go in and be the host, and or Ivy can make me the host for a minute, and I can, if it wasn't so late, you know, if you're not tired, I can pull it up and we can see it. And it's so exciting. We put 500, so far we have about 500 photographs.
Wow.
I
Wow.
know. And oh my gosh, some of it, we were thinking, you know, some of it's from Romania, or, you know, because it was, what I did was I have my grandmother, Clara, her sister, Ida Schwartz, and Ruth. They're all of their photographs and their photo, you know, albums. So I took and made pictures on my phone, and then we blew them up. So.
Okay, so Evie Schwartz, Evie. Okay, so Evie, do you know Evie Schwartz?
You know what? It
She had
maybe.
a 100-year-old birthday not a few months ago.
No, but maybe there's some connection too. It's funny because we have the Schwartz, like Bob's, you know, father and my grandmother were
Okay.
originally Schwartz, but then my cousin, one of the daughters, married another Schwartz, Arthur Schwartz, into the Arthur Schwartz family. So there's
No, Bob Schwartz, I think. And he was her brother. And he passed away just a few weeks before her 100th birthday.
wow.
And so anyway, but I think we're probably related too.
Yeah, it gets confusing because the family.
Because we're Romanian. We're Romanian too. It's all a big jumble of Jews.
Yeah, you know, you know what, we did a program, and it's on, I don't know if Ivy has it, you know, or
Yeah.
we could send it to you, but we did a
I
thing
have
on
it.
the
Yeah.
Jews of Key West. Did you see that?
Oh no, not the Jews of Key West.
Yeah,
My
we did.
grandfather went down to Key West, but then he didn't like it, so he went all the way back to Jacksonville and decided to stay there.
Okay, interesting.
Music Key West was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
he came in
some of the
New
Jews.
York.
Oh,
And he
interesting.
He traveled all the way down to Key West. He had relatives there in Miami, and then he went back to Jacksonville because he liked it better there.
Wow, because you know what happened? Some of the Jews they would go to Key West, and then they would go to Tampa, or, you know, like when they couldn't earn there, when the cigar factories, I guess, would have problems, then they would go move to Tampa or Fort Myers or Jacksonville or wherever they, you know, because we were talking about it last night. Bob, how many years did we figure out that they were then the family lived in Tampa for like a lot of years?
Oh, yeah, because a lot of the kids were born there.
Yeah, and so our vacations when I was little were all around Florida. My father would drive all around Florida to see everybody. And then later on we'd drive all the way up to New York to see people. And then all the way out to Chicago to see people. And we drive up to Canada to see people. You know, those were our vacations, to see the relatives. That's what we did.
Wow. So I wonder, so Schwartz, I wonder if there's any connection, maybe, you know, like on the other Schwartz side.
No, well, I don't know, but when you mentioned Romania, that's where my grandfather came from. Hush, Romania. And my mother came
Hush,
on her
Hush,
side.
Romania,
Hush.
Hushi, Hush,
Say it again.
Hush,
Hush.
C.
Whatever. I don't know.
Interesting.
That's where my mother and father, both of their relatives came from there.
It's really
Who knew?
interesting. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
Ivy,
Yes.
every time I see you, I see so much of my cousin Sadie and my cousin Adele in you. I just look at you and I see them.
I like when you tell me that.
Huh?
I like when you tell me that.
Well, they were lovely people. Your mother was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And smart.
oh yeah, you know, she used to call me always on my birthday. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Because she thought I was mad at her from when she got married when I was a young kid and I wasn't invited to the wedding. And my mother was the wedding planner and spent like months with your grandmother and your mom for that wedding. And it was a huge wedding and I wasn't invited. I was only about 11 or 12 and I was very insulted. Now, Lewis and Alvin got to go because they were older, but I couldn't go. And she thought I never forgave her. Of course, that was silly, but she always used to tease me about that.
She called everybody on birthdays, anniversaries, the parents' birthdays if they'd passed away. She told the children on it, and when she passed away, so many people told me, your mom always called on my birthday, or she called me on my birthday and on their mother's birthday or their father's birthday. Yeah. And I said, it was such a nice thing. I said, it would be nice if I could do that. And they're like, well, don't you have her list? And I was like, she wasn't having, there was no list. It was in her head. Yeah. All those dates, everything was in her head.
She was really brilliant
Yep.
woman. Yeah.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It was amazing.
Oh, we have lots of pictures. We have pictures of your mom. We've been finding a lot of stuff. Well, we have of your brothers when we were trying to figure out what year it was. Probably they were in their 30s or 40s.
Ivy, do you know anything about our cousin Marcy?
Cousin Marcy?
Yes, that was my Uncle Nathan. That was, one of the brothers.
Yes.
His daughter was Marcy, and she was probably about the age of Lewis and Alvin, about that age. So she was older than I was. And she went to New York, and she was actually, her stage name was Marcy Black. And she was actually in some soap operas and something. And, wow. And Karen thought you might know something about her.
No, I don't.
Okay.
So let me ask you this. So Ivy, what was the relation between it was on my grandmother, it was on our between your mom. Okay, so what was the relation? They were cousins?
Right, cousin Clara, cousin Ida, and
Ruthie, and Joe and Nathan and Jack were the six.
Those were mom's first cousins, because Uncle Schwartz, they always called him Uncle Schwartz. So that was like cousin Clara's dad, right?
Right, Saul.
Right. They didn't call him Uncle Saul. They called him Uncle Schwartz. and so that was like God.
I think they were related to your grandmother.
That was Bubba's I don't know. It was definitely related on mom's.
Yeah,
and
we
mother's
have to
side.
figure all that, we have to figure all this out because you might recognize the people in the pictures. We have a lot of stuff. Interesting. And,
I made the family tree. Remember didn't I remember? I
yes,
brought that
yes,
pen?
you made a family tree. And I think Danielle pulled some of that up we put it on the slideshow too, some of the family tree. So it's really interesting. And I really want Dodie I think, gosh, Bob, you have to tell me which photo it was because
It was the one that we thought was up north, and some buildings up north.
oh, yeah,
You remember
yeah.
that we didn't know any of the people, but I said that looked like my grandma Weingarten.
Yeah.
Like my Aunt Rose and maybe Stan holding up Dodie when she was real,
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, Jackie, we have to get your mom on sometime, the next time we do this or sooner.
Yeah,
And see what
for
she
sure.
thinks.
For sure.
Right, there's the
This is
family.
not as nice as Herb's, but this is the family tree.
You know what, Ivy? Can you take a picture of it on your cell and then I'll incorporate it in the screen share?
Okay. It was, okay, I will tell you. Okay, Saul Schwartz is married to Sarah, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Sarah Silverman.
Right. Sarah Silverman was married to Saul Schwartz, and then they had Jack, Clara, Nathan, Joe, Ida, Ruthie, right? Okay.
Right.
Leah was, I don't know, I guess they were first cousins. So Isaac Leibovitz and Laura Leibovitz. So that is my grandmother Sadie's mother was Sarah's sister.
Oh, then these people were in the pictures.
Right. So Laura Leibovitz, it was originally Laura Silverman, right?
Yes.
Had Sadie, who married Philip, and then we know the rest of that.
Oh
right?
my God, I'm so excited. You're going to be able to, like, when I pull up those pictures, you're going to be able to see that. And then Dodie's going to recognize other people because we have all these women. We have all these women hanging out with Sarah Silverman Schwartz, and we know they're either sisters or.
And Rose Silverman married Saul Fishman, and that's where the cousins in Tampa are. Cousin
Right,
Jenny and
yeah.
cousin Eva in Tampa.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Right. So Eva, that's Aunt Shirley's mother, right?
And Rose was her grandmother.
Rose is Shirley's grandmother, right?
Yes.
And that's Sarah's sister. Laura also Sarah's sister. And then there was Shruel Silverman. Shruel Silverman had Julius and Celia and Rachel and Carrie and Millie. There's a whole part of the family I don't really know.
Oh my gosh, this is amazing. We have to make copies of that.
Right. And then there's the Argentar family is in there too. That
Right.
Yeah, that's what I want to know. And what about the Bessners? Were they on your side or?
No, I don't remember Bessners.
You don't know that. Okay. And okay, so Argentar, what about Merlin? Were
Yeah, the
they
Merlins
related?
are over here. Yes, the Merlins are, wait.
Merlin married an Argentar.
Argentars. The Merlins come out of the Argentars.
Yes, he married one of the Argentar girls.
Oh my
Esther.
gosh. How did you get all this? How did you put all this together?
I have no idea, but there it is.
Wow, that's awesome. So we have to look at those photos. We have to do that together, and you can help me, Bob, because I can show you which, I mean, I don't know if you're tired now. If you want to do it, I can pull some up real quick.
I'm sort of beat now.
Okay, then we'll do it another time.
Oh, yeah, because
That's the nice
from
thing
Eli
about
and
being
Esther
older.
Argentar came Oscar married Jenny Newell, and she had Esther who married
And
Hy
Eli.
Merlin, and they had Steve And
Oh my gosh, we have to, Danielle put on the screen share, she started doing the tree. So when we'll get that, if you take a couple of different pictures of it and send it to me, then I can
I'll
get
try.
Danielle to integrate it onto the slideshow. It's like a
Okay.
PowerPoint now. We have a PowerPoint.
Okay,
And
sounds
then
good.
we can all be in our houses like this and we can look at it and we can help, we're labeling who all the people are.
I have a question for-
Danielle comes on and labels for us.
I have a question for Robert. Robert, were you born in Montreal?
No, I was born in Miami.
So I'm trying to figure out, there's a Robert who's a son of Sydney.
Oh,
Who
that's
did that?
Robert Siegel.
Okay, see, all I see on my screen is Robert, no last name.
Yeah, no, that's Robbie. Robbie passed away. That's Shirley's son. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good night,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah, so nice to see you.
See you all.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
be,
Bye-bye.
I'm gonna be leaving.
Buddy, this
Yes,
was
Right
good
on.
fun.
night. Yeah, it was fun. Nice to meet you, Rebecca.
Bye, everybody. Thank you
Bye.
so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was lovely. We'll reconvene when you tell us.
Yeah.
Yes, thank